How's it going, everybody? It's Polyflame, and we are back with another FPL video. And today we're going to be taking a look at my free hit draft for Game Week 36, blank Game Week 36. This week, Manchester United, Leicester City, Chelsea, and Arsenal do not have a fixture, and that is because their fixtures were moved forward into Game Week 35 with the Man United versus Leicester fixture and the Chelsea versus Arsenal fixture, and that is because of the FA Cup final that is being played this weekend. So we're going to see how I'm kind of setting up for the free hit. I haven't actually activated the button yet, so I have to make sure to do that. I'll probably do it tomorrow once I know, all players are fit and I get some, pretty good team news. I'm definitely going to do it for sure, but I'll make sure to activate it tomorrow night, and even if I have to do any changes on Friday, I'll make sure to let you know via all of our different socials. If you haven't done so already, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Trying to hit 1,500 subscribers by the end of the season, so just go hit the subscribe button. It's free to do, and turn those notification bells on so that you can get that content as soon as it is readily available, as well as give us a follow over on Twitter, where we usually post our lineups as well as any other video announcements or FPL related news. And drop us a follow over on Twitch so that you can watch us for our deadline and preview streams. And we will be doing a deadline stream the day before the FPL deadline. That's going to be Thursday, which is tomorrow at the time of recording, the 13th of May. That's going to be at 7 p.m. EST. There'll be a pinned comment down below on the video so that you can check that out as well. So without further ado, let's see what I have lined up for my free hit draft in Game Week 36. So again, much like the last video that we did in Game Week 35 for free hit drafts, this week mine is active and we're going with more of a free form style. So this is the team as it currently stands. We have 1.7 million in the bank. We have Martinez in goal, who does not blank. Areola, who does not blank as well. Digne, who has a very good fixture. Harry Maguire, who's probably injured and maybe out for potentially the Euros, depending on how serious his injury is. Maybe even the Europa League final. Luke Shaw, who has a blank. Masuaku, who does have a fixture versus Brighton, I believe, but is potentially injured for that as well. Aina, who does have a fixture, but again, not the greatest one. Mo Salah has a very good fixture. Jesse Lingard, Jota, Ward-Prowse all have fixtures. Fernandez has a blank. Vardy and Iheanacho also have blanks as well. And Calvert-Lewin. So I think I can field, I think it's like 9 players with Masuaku, so realistically 8 players. So, and they're not necessarily the greatest players. Like, would I want to be fielding Aina away to Southampton? Probably not. Can I make sure that Jota starts? I can't guarantee that he's going to start because it seems like he's going to be benched for the United game, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be benched for the West Brom game. There was leaked team sheets basically before the game got called off between United and Liverpool the first go around, and that's why it had to be rescheduled. So we cannot necessarily guarantee it, but I do think Klopp will go with his front 4. However, I do think that there are many avenues to get triple Liverpool, and we'll see those kind of what thinking I'm going with here. So the only players that I would consider actually keeping from my original team are as follows. So I'm not going to keep Martinez, even though he is away to Crystal Palace. I think there's potentially a couple better goalkeepers for this game week. So we'll get rid of him. We'll get rid of Areola because we can always get a better keeper for very similar-ish price if we have to. Just in case our first goalkeeper doesn't play. And I think it's important to do that just in case. Maguire obviously doesn't have a fixture and he's injured. Same as Shaw. Masuaku is potentially injured, so we don't want to take any risks there. Aina, not a great fixture either. Lingard will potentially keep, as well as Salah and Jota. We'll leave them in there for now. Bruno Fernandes doesn't have a fixture. Ward-Prowse does have a fixture, but I don't think we're going to keep him either. Vardy and Iheanacho also making way as they do not have a fixture. But Calvert-Lewin is definitely going to be someone that I keep. So realistically, up to 5 players from my original lineup, which means the free hit's probably going to see some pretty decent value. If you think that, let's say, 3 to 4 of them will be in the main starting lineup, that's changing out 8 to 7 players. That's pretty good value, I think. So let's start from the back. So personally, I think that Jordan Pickford is going to be the best goalkeeper for this week. They are up against Sheffield United, who don't typically score very many goals. If any, Pickford can make a few saves, although he is accustomed to getting a blunder. I think double Everton defense with Digne could be quite good. And then as a backup goalkeeper, I think Meslier is also just as good. 4.7 million. I think these are probably the two goalkeepers you want to potentially look at. And I'm going to put Meslier on the bench just in case for whatever reason Pickford gets rotated. That can happen, and Ancelotti has done it. I mean, even in tonight's game, I was going to say Azpilicueta, but Kepa Arrizabalaga has been was starting over the likes of Edouard Mendy. So it is always important to, just in case, we have the funds on the free hit. It's not like we're strapped for cash. In defense, I'm going to just put some players I like. This is not going to be the full team as of yet, but obviously some names that pop out. Trent Alexander-Arnold, West Bromway seems like a really good fixture. Robertson's also potentially good as well. And I know it's going to say I'm going to have too many players from Liverpool, but that's fine. And then you also have potentially a Man City defender. So John Stones has basically been suspended for 3 games and hasn't played. So maybe he comes straight back in. He could be a good option there for Man City. Maybe one of the easier picks there as well. And then if we just take quickly a look at some of the fixtures, who's most likely to keep a clean sheet? I mean, maybe Spurs, but I think potentially they concede. West Ham could be okay. That could be a pretty cagey affair, but we could go with something a bit more, kind of stable, as it were. Go with the likes of Dallas in there. And I think that those 5 defenders is probably what a lot of free hit players are going to be potentially looking at for the most part. I mean, Laporte is also another option as well. I think Diaz might get a run out. And then if you wanted to go for something a little bit more extravagant, I think Mendy, who didn't play particularly well the last time out, could see is seeing more Premier League minutes as shown here. He's getting the full 90s and hasn't been utilized as much. But I think Stones being at his price, and I think he could be so effective. Pep's going to play all of his players at least once before the Champions League final. They're not going to just not play for 2 and a bit weeks straight. So I think these are the defenders I'm potentially looking at, and I'm going to leave them in there for now, and that's basically what we're going to be looking at for that. Into the midfield, some cheaper midfielder that has come back from injuries, Rafinha. Again, great fixtures. If he was just a transfer, but for 1 week against Burnley away, they won that last fixture 1-0. He could be a good option there as well. Obviously, Sadio Mane is somebody who we may anticipate could see a role in as the kind of number 9 role, where we would have when Klopp plays his front 4 in a 4-2-3-1. Jota typically plays on the left with Salah or Mane on the right, and then Firmino is in the number 10 role, where we could typically see Mane potentially going off the left, and then the front 3 kind of alternate, but Mane would definitely get his spell in the middle, and that's where we would potentially want him. Also, Man City mids. That's the main fixture I'm looking at here. So if we look at these fixtures again, Newcastle, every now and again they seem to be pulling out a good result, as it were, in a fixture where they're not so favored. And can Lightning strike twice? I don't think so. I think City will win this one quite comfortably. I predicted a 3-0. So I'm looking to punt on some City mids. But the problem is I'm going to need to make sure I have some bit of bench cover for that, which we can definitely do. So I'm just going to remove Jota, and I'm going to remove Lingard for the time being. And the 2 players that stand out to me that are playing so well, that will probably play in this game, and then they'll play, they won't play the next game, and maybe they make a bench appearance, and then they play in the home game, is most likely going to be Phil Foden and Riyad Mahrez. I think that they will make an appearance for probably an extended period of time in Game Week 38, because I think the way Pep's going to play is going to play half-ish full strength in Game Week 36, half-ish full strength at 37, play pretty much full strength with Sergio Aguero in Game Week 38 because it's their home game with fans, and it's Aguero's last game potentially for the club, so they want the last home game anyway, because he's leaving at the end of the season, so they definitely want to do that. I was thinking about Aguero, but I think that with that penalty miss, could see some time on the bench based until the last game of the season, which would be where basically they're just going to give him the ball and hopefully he gets a hat trick or something as a send-off. So yeah, I like that midfield quite a lot. Obviously, with the defense, we can't do that, but the money's not any worry at the moment. In terms of forwards, it's pretty lenient up front for some players. For the cheaper options, you have Chris Wood and Antonio as very budget options. You can even, if you wanted to take a punt, I think maybe Jesus gets this game versus Newcastle potentially, because he hasn't seen very much minutes in across the few games in the cup competitions, but in the Premier League, he's definitely got a significant number of minutes playing. Quite a lot in them, but he just hasn't been scoring, which is why I probably stray away from him. And Pep may go back to that false nine system. He would be more of like a mid-price forward. Another mid-price forward would be the likes of Danny Ings. He comes in at 8.4 million. Again, scored a brace. Could be a differential pick as well. And I think that it could be, quite good of a pick, basically. They played Fulham. They play Fulham in 36. Even for the rest of the season, could be spoilers to the potential race for the top 4. The last time they played Fulham, I think it was a 0-0. Yeah, it was, and he didn't actually feature in that one. So he is going to be an unknown quantity to Scott Parker's men. And then the obvious choice up front as well is going to be the likes of Harry Kane. However, I just don't think Spurs are playing all that well at the moment. I think they're definitely going to concede. And I think Kane has been looking a bit kind of out of sorts. Maybe it's still his ankles are bothering him potentially. And I think he's not going to be playing as hard. He's going to be wanting to make sure that he's fully fit going into the Euros as well. So I think I might steer clear of Harry Kane. So potentially what we're looking at is basically a choice between how heavy do we go in defense. Well, I'm definitely going to keep Digne, and I think that is Burnley going to score versus Leeds? That's probably the question I would have to myself. And is West Brom going to score versus Liverpool? I think West Brom could score against Liverpool, but if I had to pick a defender to get some returns, it's going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold. So let's keep him for the time being. And I think Dallas will definitely concede, and you can't necessarily guarantee that he scores. But he will be playing potentially out on the left flank, although with Rafinha back, maybe he reverts back to central midfield where he's not as potent, or he reverts back to fullback, which again is even further back, but is probably better than central midfield, to be perfectly honest. Then moving into the cheaper options to enable. So Mitchell has been playing a lot of fixtures, so he comes in at 3.8. We'll just put him in there as well, because he has been playing. And they do have Aston Villa, which isn't great, but he is a cheaper defender that we can, kind of fit in there. And then I'm just going to put in Strauch, just because he's 4 million, and just see how far we can stretch the budget. Then we have 8.3 million for a forward, so it's not too bad. I'm just going to put in Antonio for now, just because he's cheap. And we can see that we have 1.9 million. So we didn't even use up all of the budget that we did have when we first basically embarked. We still had 0.2 million extra with this free hit team. And that obviously comes by the fact that we have a little bit of value on Salah, a little bit of value on Digne, which, at the end of the day, a lot of teams are going to have more value than mine. But I think with this team, basically what I would do is I would play 3-5-2 probably, with Digne, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Stones would be my 3 main defenders. And then I would have my 5 midfielders, and then I would have my 2 forwards being Calvert-Lewin and Ings, and I would have Antonio first sub, Mitchell as second sub, and Strauch as the third sub. Mind you, we can also change that second defender, because we have up to 5.9 to the likes of Stuart Dallas, as we mentioned, which would cover us in the event that Riyad Mahrez and Phil Foden don't play. And we have double coverage. So basically, the likelihood of us picking 3 City players and none of them playing, it is probably quite low, I would say. 2 would probably be quite high, that you could miss on both of them. And the likelihood is that if John Stones doesn't play or doesn't start, he's probably not going to come in. Which would mean Dallas would come in, which is perfectly fine for us. So I think that cover on that front is quite good. And I think Antonio is, a decent enough substitution. I mean, he's going to be playing against Brighton, which he should do well against as well. And then we have Mitchell here, who we can upgrade to a 4.5 million defender. If we look at the fixtures here, we have the likes of, obviously Man City, we already have 3 players from. Leeds, we only have 2. We can go for Southampton potentially. We can go for maybe a West Ham defender, a cheaper West Ham defender. We can go for potentially a Villa defender even. Spurs defenders are too expensive. We already have triple Everton and we have triple Liverpool. So we're basically looking at West Ham, Southampton, Leeds, and Man City. Probably don't want to go near Newcastle, to be perfectly honest. But that would mean we'd have to change out Meslier if we were to keep Rafinha. So I'm just going to pick Southampton here because Vestergaard is somebody who can score from a set piece. He's 4.7, so he is just barely over the budget. Can we actually change some potential things here? If we want to go a bit different, we can obviously always downgrade to Robertson. Don't necessarily like that too much, but we can do that. And I think that as a team on paper, it looks quite good. Personally, the only obviously worry would be Trent Alexander-Arnold, although he's only 22 or 23% owned, like near my rank, and I would still have Robertson in there. But the big differentials in this team would be obviously the Man City mids, Man City defense, which a lot of people have been getting out of. A lot of managers have been kind of foregoing that over the past few weeks. Double Everton defense versus Sheffield United. Unless players are making a goalkeeper transfer, I don't think that's going to be on the cards for most. Danny Ings is definitely a differential, as well as the likes of Calvert-Lewin, someone he's only similarly owned to Trent Alexander-Arnold, and has been doing well for me in my current team in Gameweek 35. But the big differentials would be Ings up front, Mane, and then the City midfielders as well would be quite the large differentials there. We could also, if we wanted to, another simple fix is if we wanted to go Trent Alexander-Arnold, we can just change Dallas out for Luke Ayling, who comes in at 4.4 as well, or we could just change our goalkeeper altogether to somebody else. If you're looking at a cheaper goalkeeper, if you wanted to go double Southampton goalkeeper, because you knew you weren't going to play or you weren't going to have any Southampton players, you can go Forster and McCarthy, and we're basically assuming one of them plays, one of them doesn't get injured, then the other one should be fine for whatever points that they get there. You can also go for Sanchez versus West Ham, although I think West Ham will probably score. Martinez is still a good pick versus Palace, but I don't like Aston Villa's defense versus the likes of a big strapping striker like Benteke, who has been scoring the goals for them, and very early in games too, 2-2 over the double game week. I think Spurs, again, probably going to concede there. And Liverpool, Alisson's probably a bit too expensive. If we really wanted to, we can go Areola or something like that as a backup goalkeeper. Or even Fabianski could be, could be something different there. I think he's 5.0. So we can have him as just a backup, and then we can, change the defense out a little bit. If we really wanted to go the likes of Mitchell, I think we can still stretch to Dallas if we wanted to. Yes, we can just barely get there with 0.4 to spare. And basically we can keep the same sort of setup. So in this setup, we would basically have Pickford in goal, Digne, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and John Stones. And if Stones doesn't play, we make sure that Dallas would be our first defensive sub. In midfield, we play all 5 of our midfielders: Salah, Foden, Rafinha, Mane, and Mahrez, with Calvert-Lewin and Ings up front. So Dallas, it would be our subs coming off our bench would be Antonio first, then Dallas, then Mitchell. And I think that would prove to be quite a strong free hit team. The differentials of Triple City would be quite good. The double Everton defense, Danny Ings in form and fit by the looks of it. Rafinha and Dallas, not many managers have potentially hung on to them. Their ownership is still decently high enough, but it's still enough of a differential on the double up. I mean, Rafinha is only 5% owned at the moment, and the double up is just going to create a shield in Dallas to a sword for this week. Foden, 8% owned. Riyad Mahrez, 5.6% owned. John Stones, under 10% owned. Sadio Mane, 5.5% owned. Danny Ings, 5.8% owned, so very lot of low owned players, and it's a free hit. It's exactly what its name says. It's a free one hit at a team, just to have fun with a bunch of new toys or players or whatever you want to call them at work. There's a bunch of shiny new things, and then you can have fun with it. And that's why I think the free hit in 36 was a little bit more based on your team. Obviously, it's always going to be a little more fun in 36 than it was in 35, because 35 you just get a bunch of double game week players, and that's pretty much it. Whereas this, you have to go with single game week players and not necessarily ones that you have in your team. So I'm going for a bit different ones. I'm going for the 3 city boys, who I'm not going to have come the following week, where I'll have my Man United players back. You know, Ings, do I necessarily want him long term, or is he easy to get? Not necessarily. I think his best fixture is probably Fulham at home. Antonio, again, do I want him on a 1 week punt? His fitness issues could come into play. He's just come back, and typically he plays a few games and then gets injured. So last time, he played 6 games in a row, and then he got injured. So maybe he holds out to the end of the season. But again, it's Antonio. He could get injured at any given time, which is why I think he'd be a bench option rather than basically a starter. And I think certain players that fall into that category, when they are injury prone on a one-off week, you can't really take that risk. So you can say that the likes of Danny Ings is a risk as well. Definitely have considered that, and maybe he's better suited to whereas we just put the money into Kane and just go quite safe there, and maybe downgrade Mane to somebody else, or maybe go double Liverpool defense or something like that. There are many different ways you can slice it, but this is kind of what I'm looking at the moment. So make sure to let me know what you think in the comments down below, or over on Twitter as well, and let me know what free hit teams you guys are drafting for blank game week 36. And that's going to do it for my Game Week 36, blank Game Week 36 draft. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you are new or haven't done so already. It greatly helps out the channel. We greatly appreciate it. And turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. Drop us a follow over on Twitter so you can keep up to date with all the FPL related news as the season comes to a close, as well as give us a follow over on Twitch for our preview and deadline streams, which we will be doing one tomorrow, 7 p.m. EST. There'll be a pinned comment down below with all the details. That's also where we'll be doing some of our off-season content for maybe Euros watch-alongs or FIFA career modes, while FPL is in the off-season, as it were. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, take care.